In the most isolated place on Earth, a continent of ghost-white deserts and mountains of ice, scientists have been drilling. They're searching for answers about our planet's past, locked away in the ancient ice. But they weren't prepared for what they'd find. An expedition, pushing the limits of technology and human endurance, recently analyzed something that's been frozen for millions of years, and the report sent a wave of shock, and even fear, through the scientific community. What they uncovered could rewrite our planet's history, and some are wishing it had stayed buried deep beneath the ice. Because this discovery isn't just a relic of the past, it's a terrifying prophecy for our future. Antarctica. The name alone conjures images of an eternal, unforgiving winter. It's a continent so vast and hostile, it's still the least explored place on our planet. It is a land of extremes, where 98% of the surface is entombed by an ice sheet that's up to 3 miles thick in some places. For centuries, this frozen fortress has guarded its secrets with a cold, silent indifference. We've always known there were mysteries hidden beneath its surface, subglacial lakes, ancient mountain ranges, and maybe even forms of life unknown to science. But no one was prepared for the ghost of an entire world. To understand this discovery, you first have to understand the mission. This wasn't a casual trip. It was a multinational effort, pulling together some of the brightest minds in climatology, geology, and paleontology. Their goal was to retrieve sediment cores from one of the most remote sections of the West Antarctic seabed, near the formidable Pine Island and Thwaites glaciers. These glaciers are infamous, acting as colossal plugs holding back unimaginable amounts of ice from sliding into the ocean. The team's main objective was to extract these cores, cylinders of mud and rock that are like time capsules. By analyzing the trapped sediment, scientists can read the story of Earth's climate stretching back millions of years. The process is painstaking and dangerous. A specialized drill on a research vessel bores into the seabed, pulling up samples from deep beneath the ocean floor. For weeks, the work proceeded as you might expect. They pulled up core after core of marine sediment, each one a valuable, yet predictable, piece of the climate puzzle. They were charting the familiar rhythm of our planet's history. But then, something changed. When they analyzed a core retrieved in 2017, they saw something that just didn't belong. The lead author of the study, Dr. Johan Klages, noted that the color of one layer was completely different from anything above it. It wasn't the grayish, lifeless sludge of a dead ocean floor. It was dark, rich, and full of something else. The tension on the research vessel was palpable. The whir of the machinery seemed to hum with anticipation. What had they hit? After hours of careful work, the moment finally came. They laid the core out in the lab, and a stunned silence fell over the team. It wasn't a core of just marine sediment. It was soil. Dark, dense, and woven through with a thick, intricate network of ancient roots. What the scientists were looking at should have been impossible. It was the ghost of a lost world. CT scans revealed the incredible truth in breathtaking detail. The core sample contained the perfectly preserved soil of an ancient forest floor. The web of roots was still intact. Microscopic analysis uncovered a treasure trove of biological data that left the team staggering: fossilized pollen, spores from countless plant species, and even remnants of flowering plants. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a resurrection. They had found the remains of a vibrant, temperate rainforest that had been flash frozen in time. And this rainforest existed just 560 miles from the South Pole. The implications were world-altering. This finding, first published in the journal Nature in 2020, described a version of Antarctica that defies imagination. About 90 million years ago, during the mid-Cretaceous period, the height of the dinosaurs' reign, the coast of West Antarctica wasn't a frozen wasteland, but a dense, swampy landscape. It was a world teeming with towering conifers and lush tree ferns, a temperate rainforest remarkably similar to those found in New Zealand today. Further analysis painted an even more vivid picture. The average temperature on this polar continent was around 12 degrees Celsius, or 54 degrees Fahrenheit. Summer temperatures likely climbed to 19 degrees Celsius, or 66 degrees Fahrenheit. But how could a temperate rainforest thrive at a latitude that, even 90 million years ago, would have been plunged into a continuous, 4-month-long polar night every single year? The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community because it demanded a complete re-evaluation of the past. For such a climate to exist so close to the South Pole, two things must have been true. First, the Antarctic continent had to be covered with dense vegetation, with no significant ice cap. And second, this is the crucial part, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere must have been far higher than previously thought. Climate models based on the new data suggest that for this rainforest to exist, atmospheric CO2 levels were likely somewhere between 1,120 and 1,680 parts per million. And this wasn't an isolated fluke. Other discoveries have corroborated this vision of a green Antarctica. Scientists have found two 80-million-year-old fossilized tree stumps from Glossopteris trees, which somehow thrived near the pole before a mass extinction event. They found amber, the fossilized resin from ancient trees, proving great coniferous forests once stood there. They have even mapped a vast, hidden landscape of prehistoric river valleys under the East Antarctic ice sheet, perfectly preserved for millions of years. This was a living, breathing continent. A world lost to time. At first, the discovery was a source of profound wonder. The scientists had uncovered a lost chapter in Earth's history. But as the full implications began to sink in, that wonder slowly curdled into a deep and unsettling fear. The terrifying secret of Antarctica isn't some frozen monster or an alien artifact. It's something far more real and far more threatening. The secret is the planet's own memory. The fear comes from two places. First, it shatters our perception of Antarctica. We see it as a permanent, static feature of our world, a timeless monument of ice. This discovery proves it is anything but. It's a dynamic system capable of radical, world-altering transformation. If a temperate rainforest could exist there once, it fundamentally means that the conditions that allow for a frozen Antarctica are not guaranteed. The continent isn't a permanent fixture, it's a climatic state. And states can change. This forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. What else don't we know about our own planet? Beneath the ice are not just lost forests, but also massive mountain ranges like the Transantarctic and the completely buried Gamburtsev Mountains, a range as large as the European Alps. The continent is a far more complex and active player in the global system than we ever imagined. But the second, and more immediate, fear is what this discovery tells us about our future. The existence of that 90-million-year-old rainforest is a direct, physical warning carved into the bedrock of our planet. It shows what Earth is capable of under high concentrations of atmospheric carbon dioxide. That ancient world, with its warm polar climate and non-existent ice sheets, existed because CO2 levels were astronomically high. Today, we are artificially recreating those conditions at a terrifying rate. For the last 800,000 years, atmospheric CO2 has stayed in a relatively stable range, never rising above 300 parts per million. Since the Industrial Revolution, that has changed. The concentration of CO2 in our atmosphere is now over 420 ppm, 50% higher than it was before we began burning fossil fuels on a massive scale. The fastest natural increase of CO2 found in those ancient ice cores was about 15 parts per million over a span of 200 years. We are now seeing that same increase in less than a decade. This is why the scientists are afraid. They aren't just looking at a fossil record, they are looking at a potential roadmap for our future. The discovery of a green, ice-free Antarctica isn't a fantasy, it's a documented historical precedent. It's proof that if you push the planet's CO2 levels high enough, the ice sheets can and will disappear. They have disappeared before. The secret is that the frozen world we take for granted is fragile. The terrifying part is that we are the ones chipping away at its foundations. If the vast ice sheets of Antarctica, which hold 90% of all the ice on Earth, were to melt, global sea levels would rise by an estimated 200 feet, inundating coastal cities around the world. This ancient world buried beneath the ice serves as a stark reminder of our planet's capacity for dramatic change. The line between a frozen world and a greenhouse world is thinner than we thought. What other secrets do you think are hidden beneath Antarctica's ice? Do you see this discovery as a fascinating piece of history, or a terrifying warning for the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find these explorations into our planet's greatest mysteries as compelling as we do, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more content that pushes the boundaries of what we know.